Alright, and we are live. Good evening po sa inyong lahat mga kaguro. And of course, welcome back to Gurong Pinoy. Hello of course sa lahat ng members ng Team Skinner, our let babies for September of this year. Of course, puspusan na po yung ating paghahanda para sa inyong nalalapit na licensure examination for teachers. As you can see on your screen, makakasama po natin yung dalawa sa mga mabibigat na pangalan. Of course, sa inyong licensure examination for teachers, review preparations. Of course, makakasama natin yung viral summa cum laude din is si Coach Juno for your social science and your general information needs. And of course, yung ating top 1 for SPLE of March, Coach Toto for your math preparations. So again, puspusan na po yung ating paghahanda. So of course, welcome sa lahat ng members ng Team Skinner. You might be in Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, Team Abroad. Hello of course sa mga nanonood sa atin sa YouTube na hello din po. Sa mga newbies natin, of course, habol-habol kasi ang dami na po nating napag-aralan. Deepening na po tayo, no? Tonight, we are going to continue with our mid-review discussion. Now, again, our calendar is full now. So tonight, of course, we will have mid-review part 2. Tomorrow, mid-review part 3 po tayo. Then math drills on Friday, okay? And ongoing pa rin po, of course, yung inyong mid-review discussion for your majorship. All majorships are here in Gurong Pinoy. Now, we have English, Filipino, Math, Gen Sci, Soc Sci, MAPE, TLE, and of course, we also have values education. So again, if you fall on any of those majorship programs, just send a message to our Facebook page if you'd want to join us, of course, and if you'd want to join Gurong Pinoy in your preparation for your upcoming licensure exam for teachers. And of course, kada Tuesday po, we are going to have Coach June with us, and kada Friday naman for this month, we will have Coach Toto. Okay, so dire-diretso po yung ating pagre-review. And of course, today, I'm still reiterating that for September 2023, top 3 would be receiving 100,000 pesos from Gurong Pinoy. Top 2 would receive 200,000 pesos. And of course, top 1 would receive 300,000 pesos. This is if you are a member of Team Skinner. So again, magpa-member na po kayo sa Team Skinner. Very easy to become a member. Just send a message through this Facebook page. Of course, tonight, we will have your mid-review part 2. And so, paki-like na po, paki-love, and of course, paki-share ng ating video, paki-tag lahat ng inyong let-taker friends. And of course, you can show your support to us by sending us stars on Facebook and Super Chat, Super Stickers naman po sa ating YouTube channel. We are inviting everyone, of course, to join us. Yung mga newbies natin, good evening po. Habol-habol kayong lahat. And we still have roughly a little more than 2 months now for your let preparation. And of course, before we start with our discussion, just like every night that we have our live stream, let us all have our opening prayer. So samahan niyo po ako mga kaguro. Dear Lord, I come to you to ask for your guidance and direction in this study session. I ask that the Holy Spirit fill me with strength, creativity, and understanding to get through my studies without difficulty or sin. Help me hold my focus and attention. Help me to retain all that I learned. Please make my mind sharp and keep distractions at bay. If any part of my studying is weak or lacking in some way, let it be revealed so that I may correct it. Thank you for this opportunity to learn. Amen. All right, now once again, this is mid-review part 2. All items were part of our per subject discussion prior to your mid-review examination. And so as I've mentioned, deepening na po yung ginagawa natin, mastery na ng ating mid-review items for all the members of Team Skinner. And so if you are a newbie, balikan po lahat ng ating full-length videos, nare-replay po lahat ng ating full-length videos. And of course, sali ka po lagi sa ating quizzes na whenever you receive the link through your email. And of course, download all the files so we have dyan po sa Team Skinner. Okay, so let's have our discussion. These are all Prof Ed items, so professional education items, samut-sari na po under your new curriculum. Okay, if you are ready, let us all start with question number 1. Number 1, this is under evaluation. Its goal is to monitor student learning to provide ongoing feedback that can be used by instructors to improve their teaching and by students to improve their learning. Would this be letter A, diagnostic assessment? Letter Letter B, formative assessment. Letter C, summative assessment. Or letter D, placement test. What do you think is the right choice for number 1? Good evening sa lahat ng members ng Team Skinner. Hello po. Good evening, good evening. Habol po sa ating mga newbies, no, watching from Marawi City, Ma'am Hamima Al-Haj Said. Good evening po. Assalamualaikum sa lahat ng ating mga Muslim na mga kaguro. Good evening, Ma'am Angelica Tion Maamo. Hello po. Good evening sa inyong lahat. All right, letter B for question number 1. So again, this is under the assessment of learning. Okay? And as you can see sa ating pong screen, ang sinasabi po or ating hinahanap ay po pwedeng gamitin ng instructors or ng teachers to improve their teaching at po pwede din po namang gamitin ng mga estudyante to improve their learning. A very important and a very effective, no, a very useful type of assessment. So I am seeing a lot of letter B sa ating question number 1. And the right choice, of course, here would be letter B. Okay, that's formative assessment. Let's take a look at our next slide. So here you can see the 3 major types of assessment that we have, no, according to when you give them, kailan mo siya binibigay, at kung bakit mo siya binibigay, no? So you have diagnostic assessment, formative assessment, and summative assessment. Yung ating hinahanap kanina was formative assessment, letter B. So here sabi, no, diagnostic assessment is given before learning. Yan po yung pinaka-importanting dapat yung matandaan. For your diagnostic testing, diagnostic assessment, it is given prior to instruction or before learning. And so my question tayo dito, how do I know what students know already? Because the main purpose of your diagnostic assessment is to know your students' strengths and weaknesses. Makinig po sa lahat ng aking mga sinasabi. Although you may think na paulit-ulit na, no, nagiging sirang plaka na ako, but all these things you would have to recover and retrieve from your brains when you take the LET. Okay, so diagnostic assessment, before instruction siya binibigay, and it is given to know the strengths and weaknesses of your students. Tandaan po yan lahat. Next one, formative assessment. Yan po yung ating hinahanap kanina. It is given naman during learning, during instruction. So here you have questions at the bottom. How do I know students understanding what I am teaching? Paano ko mag-gauge? Paano ko malalaman kung kanila bang na-retain or kanila bang naiintindihan yung aking tinuturo? How do I know if I am teaching correctly? No? So kanina sa ating tanong, magagamit siya ng instruction to assess their teaching at magagamit naman siya ng mga estudyante to assess their learning. And so this is done during instruction. No? So it serves as a guide to the instruction, to the instructor, I mean, and nakakapagawa ng desisyon yung inyong teacher based sa results ng inyong formative assessment. Again, try to remember all this, try to put all this in your minds. Now, formative assessment during learning serves as guide to your instructors and serves also as guide to your students. No? Ano na ba yung aking nalalaman bilang estudyante? Nagiging effective ba? Epektibo ba ako bilang guro sa aking pagtuturo? Okay, so that's formative assessment. And lastly, here you have summative assessment. This is done after learning. Your question here is, how can students show what they learned? Okay, so this here are the big chunks of tests that we give our students. Na yung mga third quarter tests mo, your fourth periodical test, yung mga big tests natin would all fall under your summative assessment. Okay, so again, diagnostic assessment, formative assessment, summative assessment in terms of the time you give it, diagnostic assessment bago ka magturo, formative assessment habang ikaw ay nagtuturo, at summative assessment pagkatapos mong magturo. For the function or for the purpose, diagnostic assessment, para malaman mo kung ano yung strengths and weaknesses ng inyong mga estudyante, para malaman mo kung ano na yung alam at hindi pa alam ng inyong mga estudyante. Formative assessment, guide mo siya, no? Meron ba silang na learn sa aking mga sinasabi, sa aking lessons? Or bilang estudyante, meron ba akong nalilearn? Nagigets ko ba kung ano yung sinasabi ng aking instructor? Now, for summative assessment, these are the big chunks of tests. Now, it measures the quality and quantity of teaching. Pag nakita po yan sa LET, quality and quantity of teaching, your answer will be your summative assessment. Okay, so these are the three major types of assessment. As for your placement test, yung choice D natin kanina, minsan ginagamit din siya as parte of your diagnostic assessment. Usually, ang placement test mo po ay ginagamit para malaman mo kung sa anong karera, kung sa anong kurso mas babagay yung isang estudyante. No? So placement, that's placement test. Okay, but for number 1, the correct choice of course is letter B, formative assessment. Sana po ay nagets yung ating sinasabi. Okay, we go to question number 2. Which statements represent criterion reference interpretation? Would this be letter A? Lucy did better in solving the linear equation than 80% of representative algebra students. Letter B, Lucy's score indicates that she is able to solve about 2/3 of all one variable linear equations of such complexity. Letter C, students who have reached Lucy's level on linear equations usually succeed in the subsequent unit on simultaneous equations with special help or extra time. That is, Lucy is ready to move ahead. Or letter D, all of the above. Ano po yung ating hinahanap for question number 2? Number two, what is our choice? I see a lot of letter B's for number 2. Merong nagsasabing letter D, merong nagsasabing letter C. Karamihan choice niyo ay letter B. So sana po, no, paunti-unti nagiging plakado na, nagiging permanente na yung ating mga napag-aaralan kasi inuulit-ulit na po natin yung mga items for mastery. And of course, if you are a member of Team Skinner, we would reopen all these big chunks of exams na meron tayo, your diagnostic test, your mid-review tests, and of course, magkakaroon tayo ng pre-board. Okay, pre-board na po natin by next month. And so, habol po kayo kung hindi pa po kayo member ng Team Skinner. All right, I see a lot of letter B's. Okay, para magkaroon ng tsansa na magpalit ng answer, no? Kung meron pang medyo naguguluhan, let's take a look at our explanation po muna. Okay, so we have 2 types of testing shown here. You have your criterion reference tests, and you also have your norm reference test, no? Your criterion reference test, na ririnig nyo naman yung term na criteria, di ba? Pag merong pageant, pag merong Miss Universe, criteria for judging, grace, di ba? Beauty, ano pa ba, no? So that's your criteria, no? Or those are your criteria. Kumbaga meron kang batayan, meron kang gustong ma-hit, no? Meron kang mga goals or objectives. Those are your criteria. So sabi dito, if you are using criterion reference tests, it compares a student's knowledge and skills against your standard, your cut score, or your criterion. Okay, so may criteria ka, may batayan ka, may standard ka, may cut score ka. That's your criterion reference testing. In your criterion reference test, the performance of other students does not affect a student score. Hindi mo kinukumpara ang performance ng isang estudyante sa performance ng entire class or ng other students, no? Kinukumpara mo siya sa set standard, sa inyong criteria, no? Now, tandaan po, yung criterion reference test mo, sana po meron kayong ball pen, may pen, may pencil at may papel, no? Para na-jot down ninyo yung mga importanteng aking sinasabi. So, if you see criterion reference testing, palagi po silang magkakasama ng mastery and drills. Okay, criterion reference testing is done to measure mastery, and it is also done, no, your mastery is achieved by giving drills to your students. Okay, so drills, mastery, criterion reference testing are always together, no? So yung nahanap natin kanina was criterion reference testing, no? So dapat hindi natin kinukumpara yung kanyang performance with the other students, kinukumpara natin yung kanyang performance with the set standards. Now, as for your non-reference testing, this compares a student's performance against the performance of their peers. And so, palagi kong sinasabi yung LEP po ninyo, licensure exam for teachers, it's both criterion referenced and norm referenced. Bakit criterion referenced? Dahil meron ka pong set standards, diba? meron tayong criteria, meron tayong TOS, meron kang table of specifications. Dapat Gen Ed, ang score mo is not less than 50%. For Prof Ed, ganun din, no? Not less than 50%. For majorship, ganun din. If you are under the BS Ed, not less than 50%. And if you get the total, your GWA, it should not be less than 75%. So although sinabi na sa kada component ng inyong LET po pwedeng not less than or not lower than 50%, huwag ka pong mag-i-aim sa 50% lamang. Kasi pag lahat yun 50% lamang or 51% lamang, bagsak ka pa rin kasi yung inyong magiging GWA would be less than 75%. Okay? So more or less, dapat 70 or 75% o more or less yung inyong i-hit na mark. Okay? And so here, ang norm reference mo naman, we are saying that the LET is also norm reference because of the ranking. Di ba? Meron tayong top 1, top 2, top 3, until top 10. Okay? So sana po nakuha na yung difference between your criterion reference and norm reference. Criterion, you're not comparing the performance of the student with the rest of the classmates. Kinukumpara mo siya sa inyong criteria or standard. Norm reference, you are comparing the results with that of the other students in the group. Okay? And so the correct choice for that item that we had was, we were looking for criterion reference, letter B, ang tumpak na choice. Hello, good evening, Ma'am Ces Martin, no, from Team Brunner. Passer natin from March 19. Nakakamiss, sabi ni Ma'am Ces. Hello po, good evening. Okay, and so the correct choice again would be letter B. No? So sabi kasi ng letter A mo, Lucy did better than 80% of the students. Okay, so this would be norm reference. Ang letter C mo, students who have reached Lucy's level. Okay, so this still is comparing the performance of Lucy with the performance of the rest of the students. Pero yung letter B mo, ang score ni Lucy would indicate that she is able to solve about 2/3 of the linear equation. So 2/3 of the standards or two-thirds of the test, no? So that would be letter B for criterion reference. Of course, out of the question na yung letter D kasi all of the above yung sinasabi niya. All right? So sana po na-gets. We go to number 3. Students are their own assessors. Students monitor their own learning, ask questions, and use a range of strategies to decide what they know and can do and how to use assessment for new learning. Would this be letter A, assessment of learning? Letter B, assessment for learning. Letter C, assessment as learning. Or letter D, assessment at learning. What is our choice for number 3? Good evening po sa inyong lahat. All 1,190 watchers. So we have tonight, some of you are from Team Skinner Section A, others are in Team Skinner Section B, others are here on our Facebook page, and the rest are also on our YouTube channel. Okay, good evening po sa inyong lahat ng teams. Ma'am, visible po ba ako? Ma'am Jolly Marie Manubay, good evening po. Okay, what is our choice? I see a lot of letter C's for number 3. Sabi dito, students. Okay, yung pinaka-sentro ng ating pinag-uusapan dito sa number 3, it's all about students. Now, students are their own assessors. Students monitor their own learning. They ask questions, etc., etc., etc. And so the correct choice here would be letter, okay, bago pala yan, no? So, para magkaroon naman ng chance, yung mga ligwalkers sana, no, tingnan natin yung ating explanation. So here, you have the 3 different concepts: assessment as learning, assessment for learning, and assessment of learning. So here, the first one, assessment as learning helps students to take more responsibility for their learning and fix personal goals. This is metacognition. Alam niyo naman yung metacognition, di ba? Ang sinasabi natin metacognition, the students learn about their own learning. The students think about their own thinking. Kumbaga, higher level of thinking and higher level of learning na siya. No, tinitingnan mo, ano na ba yung alam ko? Ano pa ba yung kulang? Kagaya ngayon, kayo po'y naghahanda para sa inyong LET. Ano pa ba yung hindi ko alam sa Gen Ed? No? Nako, old curriculum ako. Hello po sa lahat ng mga members ng old curriculum. Or hay nako, unit earner ako. Hindi ko alam lahat ng mga parte ng new curriculum or hindi ko alam yung mga professional education subjects, hindi ko masyadong master. Okay? So as the student, as someone who is preparing for your LET, you have to monitor your own learning. Kaya po sa ating Team Skinner, meron po tayong individual monitoring sheet, di ba? Nilalagay ko dyan, ano na ba yung ating mga natapos na materials, napanood mo na ba to, na-download mo ba to, nabasa mo ba to, no? So para po mag-guide kayo kung ano pang mga materials ang kailangan yung tapusin. Okay? So this is assessment as learning. So yung akin po magbibigay na hint sa inyo dito, no? Nakikita nyo po yan, yung letter S, ito po, assessment as learning. So sana hindi pula yung aking ginamit sa pula. Alright, so assessment as learning, yan po yung ating hint. This is done by the students. So yung students yung nag-own ng kanilang learning, yung students yung nag-evaluate ng kanyang learning. Ano na ba yung alam ko? Ano pa ba yung hindi ko alam? Saan ba ako palaging naliligwak? Ay naku, hindi ako marunong sa math. Okay? So, paano ko ito masusolusyonan? Siguro kailangan kong manood kay Coach Toto or kay Coach Gon, no? So, ano pa ba yung kulang? Okay? Or it might be in your majorship. For example, TLE major ka at ang lawak ng inyong majorship, no? So, you have to exert effort. No? So here again, assessment as learning, the students are the ones who take the wheel and the students are the ones who try to check what they've already learned and what they need to learn. Okay, assessment for learning naman. Assessment for learning here, process of evidences for use by learners and their teachers to decide where the learners are in their learning. Okay, so ito ay katulad kanina ng ating formative assessment. No? So ito po yung inyong hint. Assessment for learning is formative assessment. It is formative assessment. No? It is for evidences, ginagather ng teachers ang mga evidences to guide his or her teaching. Kailangan po bang i-teach ito kasi hindi nila na-gets? Or po pwede na ba kaming mag-move on sa next naming topic? Pwede din siyang gamitin ng learners, no, to check their learning or to check their understanding, pero hindi siya ganun kalala sa assessment as learning mo. Now, meanwhile, assessment of learning naman, this is your summative assessment. Summative po ito sa ating kaninang diagnostic, formative summative assessment. This is your summative assessment. So this is an activity to measure, record, and report on a student's level of achievement with respect to specific learning expectations. So again, sinasabi natin for summative assessment, it measures the quantity and quality of learning. Okay, yung hinahanap natin kanina, all about students. And so, the correct choice here, of course, would be letter C, assessment as learning. Okay, so assessment as learning po, ang ating hinahanap, tumpak ang inyong letter C. We go to number 4. It is a process which examines student responses to individual test items or questions in order to assess the quality of those items and of the test as a whole. Would this be letter A, item structure, letter B, item analysis, letter C, item formation, or letter D, item writing? What is our choice? Okay, ayan, meron kayong inspiring words from Coach Toto. No? Coach Toto, laban Team Skinner, kayang-kaya nyo ring maging top-notchers. Good evening po, Coach, at sa members ng Team Skinner. Your SPLE March Top 1, that's Coach Toto. And of course, kasama natin siya sa inyong preparation on Friday po. Makikita nyo pa rin si Coach Toto for your math preparation. Okay, letter B for number 4. Tumpak kaya ang letter B for number 4? Okay, so sabi dito ng inyong number 4, proseso na nag-e-examine ng responses, ng answers ng inyong mga estudyante para ma-check, para ma-evaluate, para ma-assess ang quality ng mga items, no, or of the test as a whole. And so, ang tumpak na choice natin dito is item analysis. Okay? So, dyan po papasok yung mga difficulty index nyo at ang inyo pong discrimination index. No? So, we are also going to be discussing that as we go on with your LET preparation. Of course, we've also already discussed those items before. Okay? So, here is your item analysis, no? So for example, your item standard mo is set at 90%. Dapat 90% ang makuha ng inyong estudyante, no? So depende yan sa inyong teaching quality, Pero depende din naman sa quality ng inyong test. Baka maganda ang inyong pagtuturo pero hindi maganda yung mga examination items, no? For example, badly written ang inyong mga questions. Incorrect ang options na palaging sineselect ng inyong mga estudyante. At meron kang distractors na napaka-effective, no? So when you say distractors are very effective, palagi siyang na-choose ng mga estudyante mo, no? Kasi plausible siya, posible siyang maging sagot, no? Although hindi siya yung sagot, okay? So that's your item analysis, and that's what we are looking for number 4. All right, we go to question number 5. Under the policy guidelines on classroom assessment for the K-12 Basic Education Program, DepEd Order Number 8, Series of 2015, which component receives the highest percentage? Would this be letter A, written works, letter B, performance task, letter C, quarterly assessment, or letter D, all of these? What is our choice? I see a lot of letter B. Ang bibilis, ang yayabang. Okay, bibilis sumagot ha, letter B, letter B. Ligwak, nalilito. Meron pang ligwak kasi nalilito. Okay lang po yan. We still have 2 months to prepare. So sa mga newbies natin, habol-habol, sobrang dami na po nating videos and files dyan. No? So balikan nyo po yung lahat. Meron din po tayong mga modules for each individual subject. Okay, letter B for number 5. No? So yung question natin dito, simple lang naman. Sabi dito sa K-12 ba, anong component yung merong highest percentage? Would it be the written works? Pag sinabi mong written works, po pwedeng tests, assignments, di ba? Letter B, performance task, yung mga authentic assessment natin na ginagamit. Letter C, quarterly assessment, yung first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, etc. Or all of these. And since meron kang highest percentage, ligwalkers na itong all of these, you cannot choose all of these since you are trying to compare them, alin ba yung pinakamataas. And the correct choice here, of course, would be letter B. We all know this, no? Sa K-12, mas malaki yung percentage ng ating mga performance task. Ito yung mga malalaking projects natin. Minsan wala ng test, no? Performance task na lang. So sa parte naman ng teacher, sana tingnan din natin. Huwag naman nating patayin yung ating mga estudyante sa sobrang daming performance task, no? So when I was teaching in Ateneo, we would look at all our performance tasks. Bago pa man magsimula yung semester, tinitingnan na namin, ano ba yung performance task mo for this semester? So lahat ng subjects ng mga estudyante, lalagay yung performance task at titingnan kung aling mga subjects yung po pwedeng mag-collab, di ba? So para isa na lang yung produkto, isa na lang yung finished product ng estudyante, pero na-hit na niya yung different performance task na binigay ng iba't ibang subject teachers. So para hindi naman patay yung estudyante at the end of the semester. Gusto natin of course na malawak yung kaalaman ng ating mga estudyante, pero ayaw naman natin mamatay yung ating mga estudyante. Okay? So letter B, performance task po ang ating hinahanap. Okay? So here, you have the ones for grades 1 to 10. As you can see, performance task lagi, may pinakamalaking component. Ganon din po sa ating senior high school. So ayan po, performance task pa rin yung may pinakamalaking percentage. Okay, so performance task would be the right choice for this item. We move on with question number 6. Roxanne got a score of 89 in her math class. Under what description will this fall? This is still under your K-12. Letter A, outstanding. Letter B, very satisfactory. Letter C, satisfactory. Or letter D, did not meet expectations. Okay, what is our choice for number 6? Ayun, sabi ni Ma'am Vina Vine, sa amin sabay-sabay yung mga performance task. Okay, so ligwak. Patay na yung estudyante, okay? Kasi minsan yung mga estudyante kasi nagpupuyat para sa mga performance task nila. So minsan sunod-sunod yung pagpupuyat ng estudyante. Ayaw naman natin no. Okay, Ma'am Maricon, Tuldog, Mariano, Takalan, being a reviewee of Mamek, and I'm grateful because I passed the LET last October 2022. 2022. Thanks, ma'am. You've been a part of my success. Makinig lang kayo kay ma'am at for sure, maipapasa nyo ang board exam. Maraming salamat and of course, congratulations, ma'am Maricot. Isa po sa ating mga LPTs. And of course, kayang-kaya nyo yan lahat, no? Huwag po kayong mangamba. Kayang-kaya po natin yan. Puspusan lang po yung pag-aaral at maging dedikado, maging committed. Dapat may believe ka sa sarili mo. Kayang-kaya mo yan. Talasan lang yung memorya, sagot lang ng sagot, paulit-ulit, no? Pag may reopening ng ating links, i-master lahat ng links. And of course, makinig. Mas maiging nakikinig po sa ating videos, no? Mas maiging nakikinig sa ating live. Kasi pag live tayo, buhay na buhay, di ba? Pwede din namang mag-replay kung hindi talaga kaya. And of course, binabati ko yung ating team replay, no, sa mga manonood nito on replay. Hello po, good evening or good morning, good afternoon po sa inyo. Ma'am Leilani Miklat, mag-send lamang po ng message sa ating Facebook page dito po on how to join your majorship. Okay, so I see a lot of letter B's. If you get a score of 89 in a certain class under the K-12, the description would be letter B is the correct choice. Very satisfactory ang ating pong hinahanap. Ma'am Normala, October 2022 let passer natin. Congratulations and good evening po. All right, so again, these are the different descriptors that we have here. If it's from 90 to 100, that's a passing rate, of course. That's outstanding as your descriptor. 85 to 89, ito po yung ating hinahanap kanina. No? So very satisfactory yung ating sagot. Satisfactory from 80 to 84. Fairly satisfactory, 75 to 79. And did not meet expectations ang below 75. Okay, so ating pong hinahanap, very satisfactory ang ating tumpak na choice. Okay, we go to the next item. Number 7, Angela focuses her attention on the schoolwork and vigorous play, that consume most of her physical energy. Which stage of psychosexual theory illustrates her behavior? Letter A, oral. Letter B, anal. Letter C, phallic. Or letter D, latency. What is our choice? Number 7. Good evening. So 1,300 nating viewers tonight. No? Sana po hindi masyadong maulan sa inyong lugar. Ingat po tayong lahat. And of course, whatever it may take, no? Continue lang with your review. Push lang, push. Kayang-kaya niyo po yan. Sir Jess Soriano, good evening po. Drop by lang po. Na-miss ko boses ni Mamek. Thank you po ulit. March 2023, Team Brunner Passer. Good evening po, Sir Jess. Na-miss ko din po kayo. Okay, anything? What is your choice for number 7? I see letter D's. Meron ding letter C's. Maraming salamat, Sir Georgie Domrigue, for tagging your friends. Okay, what is our choice for number 7? Ayan, ang daming letter D. Ma'am Aida Alfonso, let passer, October 2022. Good evening po, ma'am, again. Okay, so here, no, sabi dito sa ating question, si Angela, nakatuon yung kanyang atensyon sa schoolwork and vigorous play, no? So laro siya ng laro, might be because of the lato-lato, no? That consume most of her physical energy. So sabi dito, ang question is, what stage of psychosexual theory illustrates her behavior? We all know na nanggaling yung psychosexual theory natin kay Lolo Freud, no? So here you have the different stages, no? So, but the correct choice here is letter D. Tama po yung letter D, no? Latency, yung ating hinahanap. So here are the 5 different stages according to Freud's psychosexual theory. Makinig ng maayos, no? OA, phalage. Okay? OA, phalage. All right? That's oral. Anal, then you have phallic stage, latent stage or latency, and of course you have the genital stage. So ayon kay Lolo Freud, sa kada stage, no, sa kada different stage ng theory na to, meron tayong tinatawag na erogenous zone. Pag sinabi mong erogenous zone, ito yung parte ng katawan ng bata na nakakapagbigay ng gratification, ng satisfaction, ng happiness sa kanya. No? So that's the erogenous zone. So sa oral stage mo, ang erogenous zone po ng bata would be the mouth. And so kung inyo pong napapansin, lahat ng mahahawakan, mahahablot ng bata, ilalagay niya sa kanyang mouth. Alright? And so that's why yung mga masyadong maliliit nating na toys na hindi po pwede sa kids who are 3 years old or younger, no? Nakalagay yan sa mga supot, no? Do not give to children under the age of 3 because it might be a choking hazard. Okay? So kasi lahat ng na hahawakan nila, ilalagay nila sa kanilang mouth, isusubo nila because their erogenous zone during that stage would be the mouth. All right. Now the next stage is the anal stage, 1 to 3 years old. Erogenous zone is the part of the body, are the parts of the body that control bowel and bladder. Kaya nga may anal ka dito na term, no? Anal stage. So during this time po, pwede mo na pong turuan ng toilet training, no? Po, pwede mo nang i-toilet train yung inyong bata. Alright? So that's your anal stage. Next one, phallic stage. Erogenous zone dito ng bata would be the genitals. Now, ang phallic po, ang term na phallic ay nanggaling sa word na phallus, which means are. Okay? So here, the child is exploring the different parts of her body, no? And so, ine-explore niya yung kanyang genitals, tinitingnan niya. As you can see in the picture, chine-check niya kung andyan pa rin ba. Okay? Andyan ka pa rin ba? No? Kinukumusta niya. Alright? So, hindi po dahil manyakis yung bata. These are all very natural, no? Because the child is learning. The child is curious. The child is developing. No? Parte po siya ng development ng bata. Okay? So, erogenous zone, this is your erogenous zone are your genitals. Now, next, latent stage. From 6 to puberty, the libido here or the libido is inactive. When you say libido, ito po yung inyong sexual urges. Okay? So, inactive, wala pong masyadong libido yung bata dahil busy siya with the schoolwork. Kaya yan po yung ating kaninang sagot sa ating question kasi nakafocus siya sa schoolwork, vigorous play, and so, psychosexual theory here would illustrate na nasa latency siya. No? Latency or latent stage siya. Okay? So, inactive. So, dito, as you can see, no, kung inyo po napapansin, wala pong erogenous zone. Dahil para kay Lolo Freud, ito po yung pinaka-boring na stage. Wala siyang erogenous zone. Bago ko po pala makalimutan na sa phallic stage, dyan din po natin makikita yung Electra complex at ang inyong Oedipus complex. Pag sinabi mo pong Oedipus complex, yung batang lalaki ay nagiging rival yung kanyang tatay sa atensyon ng nanay. Ang Electra complex naman po, ang batang babae ay karibal ng nanay sa atensyon ng tatay. Okay? So that's during the phallic stage. Now for the last stage, genital stage, no? This is like your phallic stage, pero this time, hindi na lamang yung katawan niya, yung kanyang ginagamit, pero there's already a partner. Okay, so puberty to death, maturing, sexual interest. So here, this would sometimes be called sexual reawakening with a partner. Okay, so that's the genital stage. All right, but we were looking for letter D, number 7 for this item. No, sana po na gets ang ating sinasabi. All right, number 8, pakibasa po. Excuse me, no, meron pang kumakatok sa aming pintuan. All right, sorry po. Okay, so for number 8 here, no, sabi ng inyong number 8, Mr. Francisco was very much worried about the thumb sucking of his son. A friend of his says that certain behavior among infants is normal. No? So worried na worried si Mr. Francisco, pero infant pa lang naman yung kanyang son, no, who presented the notion that certain behavior like thumb sucking is a normal behavior. Kakadiscuss lamang natin, and I see a lot of letter A's, and you are right. No, that's Lolo Freud. Okay, so Sigmund Freud or Simon Freud for some, ang ating pong tumpak na choice. Okay, sabi ni Sir Maxi Freud. Ako na daw po yung magbasa, sabi ni Sir Max. Okay, maraming salamat po. All right, so Sigmund Freud, of course, ang ating pong tumpak na choice dito. This would be under your psychosexual theory. All right, let's take a look at the rest of your choices. Erik Erikson, si Sir John Bowlby, and of course si Yuri Bronfenbrenner. No? So Erik Erikson, of course, you know him to be the proponent of your psychosocial development theory. So sabi naman dito ni Erik Erikson, imbis na sexual yung kay Freud, sa kanya naman ay social, no? Psychosocial development ang naging teorya ni Erik Erikson. So here, dinivide niya yung lifespan ng isang tao into 8 different stages, at sa kada stage, no, meron kang pinagdadaanan, no? So here, for example, during infancy, you have trust versus mistrust. Katulad siya ng oral stage ng kay Freud, no? Next one, you have early childhood, you have autonomy versus shame and doubt. Then next, you have during preschool, initiative versus guilt. School age, meron kang industry versus inferiority. Ito na po yung kaninang latent stage natin, no? And then of course, you have adolescence, identity versus role confusion. Young adulthood, intimacy versus isolation. Middle adulthood, generativity po to dapat, hindi po generosity. Generativity versus stagnation. Then of course, you have ego, integrity versus despair at old age. Okay, so ayon kay Erik Erikson naman, you have to be successful at the previous stages para maging successful ka at the latter stages. No? So kung medyo, eto, no, for example, during the intimacy versus isolation stage, kung medyo gusto mong lagi kang isolated, there might be something wrong here, no? Meron sigurong maling nangyari sa iyo during the previous stages. Maaring dito, naging confused ka as to your role, no? And so hindi mo na-establish yung role mo, nagkaroon ka ng role confusion, and so now you find it hard to have an intimate relationship, okay? So, or maaring naging inferior ka, imbis na magkaroon ka ng industry, inferiority yung nagkaroon ka, and so hindi naging maganda ang development ng inyong later stages, okay? So that's your psychosocial development according to Erik Erikson. Now here naman would be the stages of attachment according to John Bowlby. So dito, in-explain niya yung attachment ng bata sa nanay, no? At nagbigay din siya ng 4 na different stages ng attachment. So yung first stage dito is pre-attachment. This is during birth to 6 weeks, no? So until 1.5 months lang yung bata. The baby here shows no particular attachment to specific caregiver. Wala pa siyang masyadong nagkikling, no? Hindi pa masyadong clingy yung baby. Wala pa siyang preference, no? Kahit sino po pwedeng kumuha sa bata during this time, no? So birth to 6 weeks, that's your pre-attachment. Next one is your indiscriminate, 6 weeks to 7 months. Here, the infant begins to show preference for primary and secondary caregivers. So palagi nang gusto yung talagang nag-aalaga sa kanya. It might be the nanay, the tatay, or the primary yaya. No? So that's 6 weeks to 7 months. Indiscriminate. They show preference for primary and secondary caregivers. Kahit na meron ng mga relatives na pumupunta, for example, lolo, lola, tito, tita, mas preferred nila yung kanilang caregiver talaga. Now, that's indiscriminate. Discriminate, 7+ months, infants show strong attachment to one specific caregiver. So, ito yung nangyayari no, kung meron kang talagang pangunahing nag-aalaga sa bata, siya yung pinaka-preferred ng bata. Kahit ako, no, na-experience ko ito kasi mayaya yung anak ko, And so, as a busy mother, no, hindi din naman ako palaging nandyan for my baby. Meron siyang strong attachment sa kanyang primary caregiver. No? So, minsan, kahit na nandito ako, nandyan yung nanay niya, tinatawag niyang nanay, mas preferred niya yung nanay niya. No? That's discriminate. 7+ months because my baby right now is 1 year and 1 month. Okay? Or papunta na siya sa 1 year, 2 months. Okay, now, next one, multiple, 10+ months, growing bonds with other caregivers. So eventually, kahit na ngayon, no, meron pa rin akong pag-asa. Kahit na ngayon, preferred niya yung kanyang nanay. Eventually, of course, as he grows older, he would be attached to all the other caregivers that he has around him. Okay, so sa mga anak niyo dyan, no, maaaring nakikita niyo ito kung ano yung mga pinapakita ng inyong mga bata. Sana all may baby, sabi ni Ma'am Maria Barnuevo. Ipag-pray po kita, Ma'am Maria, na ibibigay po niya yan. Okay, at his time. All right, next one. Ito naman po yung kay Bronfenbrenner's Ecological Systems Theory. Meron po tayong separate video na to sa ating YouTube channel na napakarami po nating videos dyan sa YouTube channel. So, balikan niyo po yung lahat. Sabi dito ni Bronfenbrenner, ang daming influence sa life ng bata. No? So, hindi lamang yung immediate family niya, hindi lamang yung school niya, hindi lamang yung church niya, pero maraming layers. No? Para siyang onion, no? Maraming layers yung influence sa bata. So dito, nagbigay siya ng different ecological systems. Meron kang tinatawag na microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem, and chronosystem. No? So microsystem, ito talaga yung may malaking impluensya sa bata. No? Immediate environment niya, family, the church, neighborhood play area, the peers, and the school. Ang mesosystem mo is the interaction. No? Combination siya or interaction siya ng different parts of his or her microsystem. And then for your exosystem, ito na yung external environment ng bata. Hindi siya direktang nakaka-apekto sa bata, pero of course may influence pa rin siya. For example, friends of family, some neighbors, no, legal services, social welfare services, the mass media, the work of the parents po pwedeng nandito din sa exosystem. Next one, macrosystem. This is the society as a whole. No? Mas malaki na siya. Attitudes and ideologies of the culture, society and culture niya ang inyong macro system. Ang chrono system mo is time. Okay, so patterning of environmental events and transitions over the life course of the child. That's chrono system. Okay, so tandaan po yung lahat. This is Bronfenbrenner's Ecological Systems Theory. Okay, we move on with number 9. Number 9 na po tayo. Thorndike's law of effect states that a connection between stimulus and response is strengthened when the consequence is blank. Letter A, repeated. Letter B, negative. Letter C, pleasurable. Or letter D, positive. What is our choice? Number 9. Number 9 po, ano yung ating hinahanap? Okay, what is our choice for question number 9? I see a lot of letter D's. Letter D. We are talking about Edward Thorndike here, no? One of his laws of learning. Diba? Nagbigay siya sa atin ng 3 different laws of learning, and I'll be talking about all these laws in a few minutes. No? Pero yung tanong dito, the connection between stimulus and response is strengthened when the consequence is blank. No? So, isa-isahin muna natin. When you say stimulus here, no, pag sinabi mo pong stimulus, this is anything that elicits responses. Anything that can make you react. Pag may tumawag sa'yo, hello, or may tumawag sa'yo, may sumigaw, ganda, at ikaw ay napalingon, no? You would consider that a stimulus. Stimuli po ang plural form, okay? A response, that's a reaction. So, sinasabi dito, ang stimulus response daw, ang connection between the stimulus and ang reaction ay nagiging strong kapag ang consequence ng isang action is what? Ang consequence, of course, when you say consequence, that means the effect, no? The effect of an action is, the correct choice here is letter D. Kapag maganda yung epekto ng isang action, uulit-ulitin ng bata. No? Yan yung sinasabi ng law of effect. Kapag maganda ang naging resulta ng kanyang action, for example, siya ay nag-aral ng mabuti para sa kanyang test at pagkatapos nagkaroon siya ng perfect score, natuwa yung nanay, binigyan siya ng bagong cellphone dahil positive ang naging epekto or naging effect no, sa Thorndike's law of effect, uulit-ulitin ng bata ang action na yon. Magiging strong ang connection between the stimulus and response. Okay? So, uulitin niya. Palagi siya mag-aaral kasi in anticipation din na pag maganda yung naging effect, ay magkakaroon siya ulit, no? Magkakaroon siya ulit ng panibagong reward. Okay? So, kumbaga nakatuhog naman kasi no ang iba't ibang series natin sa Prof Ed, nakatuhog silang lahat no, so konektado din siya sa inyong reward and punishment. Okay, but here letter D po ang ating hinahanap, and of course we have the three different laws of learning here from Edward Thorndike. The law of effect, sabi dito ng law of effect, yun ang kaka-explain ko lamang. Kapag maganda yung epekto, nagiging strong yung connection between the stimulus and the response. Pag hindi maganda yung epekto, mag-a-avoid yung bata, o i-a-avoid ng bata, hindi na niya gagawin no, kung ano mang ginawa niya before. Law of exercise, this is practice makes perfect. Okay, so frequent connections would strengthen. Okay, so frequent connections between the stimulus and response would strengthen the connection and its effect. Okay, and of course, readiness naman. The law of readiness states that the relationship between stimulus and response is strengthened based on the subject's readiness to learn. No? So kahit na anong pokpok mo sa bata, kapag grade 1 yung bata, kahit na pamemoryahin mo siya na lahat ng theories, for example, kapag hindi nagigets ng bata, hindi abot ng kanyang kakayanan, hindi po pwede, no? Kasi nga hindi ready yung bata. That's the law of readiness, all right? So these are the three different laws of learning according to Edward Thorndike. Okay, number 10, Manuel, a 5-year-old boy, can hold his pen and write his name with his right hand. Which term describes Manuel's action or behavior? Would this be letter A, development, letter B, growth, letter C, learning, or letter D, maturation? What is our choice for number 10? Kapag blurry po, Ma'am Catherine Teves, paki-change po ng ating video quality. Hanapin niyo po yung settings na icon at i-change po yung ating video quality. Okay, number 10, I see a lot of letter A's for number 10. So again, if you are still not a member of Team Skinner, habol na po kayo. We are currently at mid-review part 2. Bukas po, magkakaroon tayo ng mid-review part 3. So wag po kayong paiiwan, no? Mag-send po kayo ng message sa ating Facebook page, maging member ng Team Skinner. Magkakaroon na rin po tayo ng bagong grupo, Team Pavlov, for March 2024. And so, if you are one who will be taking the next March or next year, send a message to our Facebook page para po maisali kayo doon sa mga first batch natin. Ma'am Quinette, Saja, Yap Tupas, ang YouTube channel po natin ay Gurong Pinoy. I-type mo lamang po yung Gurong Pinoy, ma'am. Okay, letter A for number 10, and that to be right, no? So here are the different definitions of our different terms, okay? So when you say development, increase in capacity and skill through growth, maturation, and learning. Kumbaga, combination na ng lahat ng terms na nandito, no? So nag-increase ang capacity mo, nag-increase ang skills mo dahil ikaw ay nag-grow, ikaw ay nag-mature, at ikaw ay natuto, no? So encompassing, kumbaga parang umbrella term na ang term na development. Okay? So sabi dito kasi Manuel, a 5-year-old boy, can hold his pen and write his name with his right hand. No? And so hindi na lamang siya growth, hindi lamang siya maturation, but nag-learn na din si Manuel. Okay? So that's development. Ang growth po kasi, choice B, is physical maturation, quantitative changes. Naging mas matangkad lang siya, nag-increase ang number of cells. For example, if we're talking about about the lower types or lower forms of organism, no? Pero sa ating mga tao, we have increased in weight, for example, we have increased in height. That can be a form of your growth. Okay, so physical maturation, quantitative changes. Ang learning, of course, it's a change in behavior, and maturation, on the other hand, is the increase in competence, and this also is pertaining to qualitative changes. Now, so growth mo is quantitative, while maturation is qualitative. Okay, but here we were looking for letter A. For number 10. Number 11, which facilities are present in a health-promoting school environment? 1, canteen that sells all kinds of food, including junk food. Number 2, comfort rooms common for boys and girls. Number 3, sanitary drinking fountains. Or number 4, safe playgrounds. Is it letter A, 1 and 4, letter B, 1, 2, 3, 4, letter C, 2, 3, 4, or letter D, 3 and 4? Okay, sabi ni Ma'am Bella May, ask lang po coach, kapag member ka na tapos hindi nakapasa, magiging part pa rin po ba ako ng team for March or need pa rin po mag-register? Wag naman po nating isipin, ma'am, na hindi po papasa. Papasa po tayo, okay? Papasa po tayo, Ma'am Bella May. But if you are having those thoughts, for example, or for any reason, hindi ka po nakakuha ng let, no? Kailangan mo pong mag-register for Team Pavlov, but of course, there's going to be a 50% na discount for our former teammates. No? So former members po natin would get a 50% discount. Okay, but of course, papasa po tayo, Ma'am Bella May. Okay, number 11. What is our choice for question number 11? I see a lot of letter D's. Number 11, letter D. Tumpa kaya ang letter D?